Full suspense.
Tough match.
Hello, everyone. A very good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today. So today we have Anand and Bhavna from the BigFatPhoenix team. And today they will be judging the finalists who submitted their decks for the April edition of Product Teardown. So before we jump right into the event, talking a little about the Product Folks. So the Product Folks is a volunteer-driven community of product managers and enthusiasts who are passionate about making an impact and helping everyone grow together. So if you're new to the event and you've never heard of Product Folks before, I would suggest you go check our website and our Twitter. You will find out there are a lot of events that we do for product enthusiasts, and there is something for everyone. So you'll definitely find something for you. So we have programs like Insurjo, Teardown, and several cohort-based courses for different stages of one's product careers. We strive to add value to everyone in our community by helping them become better product people. From students looking to explore the product management domain to mid-level or senior level folks looking to run up the product management career, our huge line of initiative helps every product enthusiast in the best way possible. Now, moving on to Product Teardown. If you're here, I'm pretty sure you must have heard what the Product Teardown is, but for the uninitiated, I will introduce it again. So Product Teardown is an initiative where candidates are given take-home case studies to enable aspiring and existing product managers to showcase their product learnings, get guidance, and have a chance to interview for jobs. The people who have previously registered have got a chance to work on problems faced by companies such as Hotstar, Danzo, Meesho, Apna, etc. by proving their skills through incredible decks. Getting live feedback from PMs and founders of these companies has helped participants build their product sense and problem-solving skills. And today, we are here to look at some solutions that participants have given for problems faced by BigFatPhoenix. So that is going to be our agenda for today. So moving on to BigFatPhoenix, BigFatPhoenix Interactive builds games to help kids with social emotional learning, grounded in scientific research and made by world-class game designers. Because they believe that video games can help kids grow into mature, confident, and compassionate adults who will build a better world. Their game, Fairside Stories, is certified by the KidSafe SEAL program. It is a collection of story-based role-playing games for kids where they make tough choices, observe the outcomes of their decisions, and learn about their values. So today we have two people from the BigFatPhoenix team who are joining us. We have Anand Ramachandran, who is the co-founder, and Bhavna Padmanabhan, who is the head of product. So talking about Anand, Anand has over 20 years of experience leading creative teams, developing games, interactive entertainment content, and storytelling. He has held on to prominent positions such as creative director of Disney Baiju's Early Learn app and game designer at Zynga. He was the creative director on Dadi vs. Jellies, which won Game of the Year at India Game Developer Conference 2015. Outside of his work, he is India's most widely published video games columnist in the
Where
mainstream
did you
press.
get all this from my LinkedIn? Jesus. Seriously?
we did some research. Credits to Nikhil for that.
Literally on my LinkedIn bio. That's just me trying to land gigs, folks.
But that's
anyway,
true.
yeah.
We trust you about that.
Sure.
Right. So also I'll introduce Bhavna before we hand it over to you guys. So Bhavna is a product designer who has been accused of being an undercover agent for both design and product. Bhavna has 10 years of experience working at Baiju, Zynga, Flipkart, and UNESCO. She has worked on big titles like Castleville, Farmville 2, Draw Something, and Disney Baiju's Early Learn as a design lead. Her strength has always been in building fun experiences with a strong focus on data-driven approaches. She draws inspiration from her master's degree in psychology and her innate love for all things fun. So that's the formal introduction that we had for you guys. But now we would love for you to introduce yourself, what BigFatPhoenix does, how you guys ended up in there, and what stage you're currently on. So a lot of questions for you to answer. So over to you, Anand.
Yeah, thanks. I mean, I've never had my LinkedIn bio read out loud to me before, so that's a first. So thank you for that. What's to say? I mean, I've been making games for several years now, in small and large companies, right? So after a series of working in very large companies like Zynga, then Hike Messenger, like Tiny Mogul Games, which got merged into Hike Messenger, and then Baiju's, like a series of billion-dollar companies. I was kind of maxed out, wanted to do something cool, and wanted to get control of my time back, wanted to work with the people I wanted, wanted to work with, and build a culture that we wanted to build the games that we wanted to make rather than what someone else felt was the right thing to make, right? So most game developers are like that. So if y'all are familiar with game development, then you won't be asking me why I quit Byju's to you'd probably ask me why did you join Byju's in the first place, right? That's what a game developer would ask. So if any of you are familiar with making entertainment or game development, then it'll be pretty obvious to you why we do what we do. Uh, so I live for video games. I've always played video games. I'm like 48 years old, and for 44 years I've been playing video games. So it's longer than most of you have been born, right? So it's just my lifeblood. I don't watch movies. You BPAD Pavna will testify to that. I don't watch movies. I don't watch television. All I do is play video games. That's all I do. So it's just something that I always cared about, and I just kind of figured out that's just what I want to do. With BigFatPhoenix Interactive, what we set out to do was a little personal for me in that I'm not like a highly educated guy, right? I don't have a college degree, and I dropped out of college. My son doesn't even go to school, right? He doesn't go to regular school. He's out of the education system as well. So I've always felt like, I wanted to do something to just do the right things for kids at our, at a young age, and kind of teach them and help them build the kind of skills that the school system doesn't really help them do, or the family system, or any system for that matter, right? So we were looking at what we could do, and we always felt like, I wish that when I was younger, I was given the skills to be able to manage my own emotions, to like manage relationships. These are far more important than, I don't know if can I swear. No, I suppose I shouldn't swear. So just doing like calculus, or today I can just pick up Google and ask what is the goddamn formula for this, and it'll just tell me, right? There's no need for me to have that information. What is required is the skill to be able to, even with math, the skill to be able to do mental computation is more important than actually being able to do the math, or remember, retaining the formulas and stuff. So what are the skills? We were focused on skills rather than information. We were focused on mental models rather than definitions. When most of our education system is focused on definitions, right? What is the meaning of this, or what's the meaning of that, or rather than how do you do this, or how do you do that? How can you figure something out from first principles? And we wanted to kind of get there, so we explored a bunch of places, and eventually decided on emotional social skills for a couple of reasons. One is it's a pressing need, and we just don't help kids handle emotions and handle relationships and build those kind of skills at all. They're expected to figure it out on their own, right? And we kind of sit and actively teach them how to read or how to speak, which is actually something they'll be able to figure out on their own anyway, even if we don't teach them, right? It's ass backwards, sorry for swearing, it's back to front. But it's very hard, BPAD, but it's back to front, and we just felt like that is something that games are superbly suited to do, right? Any game players in the house, just pung in your favorite role-playing games into chat. No saying The Last of Us, that's not a role-playing game, but other than that, if you play role-playing games, you'll know that games can model behavior, right? Games can put you in front of emotional choices. Games can tell you emotionally engaging stories. It's possible. Genshin Impact is a gacha game. It's not a role-playing game. Come on, folks. But it's really good. It's really good. I love that game. But yeah. But anyway, it can tell, right? You even games like Genshin Impact, they tell like very emotional stories. There's a lot of storytelling in which make you think about relationships, which make you think about decision making, which make you think about responsibility, cause and effect, all that kind of thing. So we felt games are perfectly suited to do something like that. So a bunch of us just like quit Byju's and started off. Witcher 3 is it's a huge favorite in our team. I have 100% in it, except for the horse races, and went 100% in it the whole game. But so that's how we got to doing what we do. Why are we making it for kids? Because we enjoy working with kids, and at Byju's we had a lot of experience working with kids, and we felt that was a very exciting age group to build for. So here we are.
Got it. Awesome. How about you, Bhavna? How many of those you have the same emotions towards Indian education system in general?
So I
Wait,
have
we're not talking about Indian education system. We're
no,
talking
no,
about
we're
global
not.
education system.
Okay.
It's nothing to do. Our market is not specifically India. Just putting it out there.
Got it.
So first of all, hello everybody. Uh, so I don't have a complicated relationship with education per se. I do think that while most schools try really hard to like do the best by their kids, it's also like they have limited time with the kids. They have a curriculum that they have to complete, and there are just some needs of kids that are not met in the school space, in like in most schools, right? Some schools I think are trying now. The last 2 years, and like kids facing like really hard times is a huge factor in all of that. But in most schools, it's a thing that's overlooked or is like kept for the end of the year or the end of the semester, and then teachers are burnt out, the kids are burnt out. Parents just don't have the time or don't know how to, or need some assistance in making things like social emotional learning appealing to kids, and like make it clear to them why it's relevant for the kids to be like, thinking about like ethics and values and how do I make decisions, and real world skills like that. I've actually worked with Anand for a bit now. He and I overlapped a little bit at Zynga when both of us worked there, and then I joined Anand's team.
That was a long time ago, right? That was 2012 or something.
When I don't even remember when you came
Yeah,
to Zynga.
2012. 2011, I joined Zynga. I think I met you in 2012.
Yeah.
We've known each other 10 years, BPAD. It's pretty awesome.
So yeah, so when Anand and some of our team left Byju's at that time, I was still like working on another project over there, unnamed, can't mention that right now. And I felt like there was still something that I could do over there, but and then the pandemic happened, and then I got COVID. Spoiler alert, I came out of it just fine. But it was around that time that I was feeling like I wasn't growing. I realized that I was kind of stagnant where I was, and I wanted to do a new role, and it didn't look like there was any space to make that happen at that point in the team that I was in. And Anand called me when I was sick, and he was like, "How are you doing?" I remember I was like, "Not good, not very good." And he said, "Okay, get better, and then let's talk." And at that point, we kind of chatted about it, and I kind of knew what they were up to, not the details. A lot of my very good friends and some of the best people in the industry actually right now are at BigFatPhoenix. So I was like tracking what they were doing, whatever was
They
public.
all joined before you. You were the
Yeah,
last.
exactly.
Just pointing it out.
They all joined before me, exactly. Anyway, and so I knew what they were doing, and then Anand and I had many chats. At this time, just keep in mind, and I'll keep it brief, but I've been a designer my entire career in games. And so when I spoke to Anand, he was like, "Come on, let's, I want you to come and do a product." And I was actually a little apprehensive about it. I'm not anymore, because I've really enjoyed myself this past like little over a year that I've been at BFP. Doing new things, learning new things, learning how to work in a small team. I haven't worked in a small team in really long. So they've been great experiences, but for me, the most rewarding thing has been, we work a lot very closely with kids. We play test with them. We run like tiny workshops with them to kind of figure out how they think of ethics, and try to contextualize these like pretty vague and arbitrary things a little better for kids. And most species tend to learn through play, and so we use that principle in the way that we approach
With the
what.
possible exception of human beings, I'm just saying, who
Well,
stop alarmingly early.
so we'd like to bring that back. I know that I obviously, I mean, kids love playing games, and kids love learning, regardless of what schools make them think learning is. Just like learning a new skill or learning new ways of thinking, kids, even adults, actually really like doing that. And so I love working at the intersection of those two things, like fun and play, basically. So that's been my journey.
Plus, we're making games, man. What can be better?
Yeah, I know.
I remember when I quit Hike, right? Hike was we were the games team at Hike, and then Hike at one point deprioritized games. Oh, ironically, now they're back into like. In fact, the Messenger is gone. There's only games now. But at that point, they were deprioritizing games, and the entire games team, we had a really talented team. We had an amazing team, one of whom is with us at BFP. But we had a really good team, and then, Kavin and everyone calls us into a room and says, guys, you are a really talented team, you're a great team. We need to deprioritize games and like focus on making Hike better. But can you, you can use your creative energy and your skill to make Hike better. And there's lots of design ideas from games and gameplay which can be used to make any product better, so we really want you to kind of help us do that and all of that. And he gave us like a really impassioned sales pitch. I lasted a week after that. I was the first to go. And it was no surprise to anybody. I just walked into Sumit's office and said, dude, can't do it, no games, I'm out, sorry. Boom. So yeah, that's pretty much what we do.
Got it. Also, if you guys could talk about the problem statement that the participants were given this month, what
They seem
exactly?
to have understood it fairly well, no? You need us to talk about that? Because they've made
Say
like
what you.
extremely elaborate decks and all. So I don't want to waste everyone's time just doing the same thing. If you
Fair
want, I can
point.
answer questions about the problem statement. That might be cooler.
No, I think you answered a lot of questions when we had the AMA session on Slack as well. So if there are any other questions that the participants have while the presentations are being done, we can take those in the middle or towards the end.
Yeah,
So,
as you wish, because the
right?
problem statements are also fairly well elucidated at the beginning of every deck. So it's just be a waste of time me talking about those things.
Fair point. Fair point. Okay. So then we can start with the presentations for today. So Nikhil will be sharing a pick a wheel and we'll pick the participants randomly.
Before we do that, can I just spend a minute? So
Yeah.
there were a lot of presentations that were made to us, right? A lot of decks that we went through, and like it's incredibly high quality stuff, really, really top class presentations and stuff like that, right? And I was like, look, I have to pick five, and I picked six. I couldn't narrow it down to five, right? The competition was so fierce. Now, what I want to kind of just talk about is for those of you whose decks did not make it into the final list, I just want to kind of give a couple of explanations on what were the parameters that we went with. At the end of the day, it's subjective, right? So there were a lot of great ideas in there. There was a lot of stuff. There were a lot of really valuable work that has gone in there. So it was really closed. I did not see a single deck that I thought was irrelevant or poorly put together. And that's quite remarkable, right? Not one was a deck which I felt, yeah, you know what, these guys don't get it. It was not even one. So firstly, the floor was really high. So what did we look for? We looked for a couple of things. One, broadly looked for unobvious answers, right? Whether they were the best answers or not is not something we needed to like at least I looked at this stage, right? Here we're looking for a spark, we're not looking for a solve. So I looked for, yeah, that's an interesting thought that I didn't think of, right? That was one very key parameter which I went after. The second one was just stuff which stayed very close to the point of what is the cheapest way in which we can solve this problem statement, right? There were a lot of really interesting suggestions, right? AI and facial recognition, and let's do this and let's do that and all of that. That's really cool. But I looked for what can we do in like 2 weeks. I kind of sliced it down to that and tried to look at what is the most practical and fast paced, which is what we kind of look for from a product manager, right? The third thing was the concise and precise way that it's communicated in the deck itself. Even if two ideas were fairly similar, we looked at how precisely and how briefly is it presented. Because one of the things that I always look for in a designer or a product manager or anybody at all is if you can tell it in one slide, don't use 30, right? Is something that we always kind of insist on. So, and there were a lot of similar. So you might end up looking at one of the shortlisted ones and say, hey, I had the same idea. And that's on me. That's not on you. That I had to pick one and I had to go with particular parameters and I just chose that. But that's not on you. That's really just a matter of my subjective opinion at that point in time. All of you who participated, I just want to thank everyone because your decks were of extremely high quality, all of them.
Thank you for that feedback. The participants were definitely looking forward to that. So now a few instructions for the people who would be presenting. So you'll get 6 plus 2 minutes. So you'll get 6 minutes to present. We have Amanpreet here who will let you know at 5 minutes that 1 minute is left. So you need to start concluding by that point. And we have Nikhil who will be sharing the pick a wheel. And that is how we'll decide who goes first. And with that, we can start.
Whoa. Does this thing come with the like platform?
There's a website,
There's a
pickerwheel.com. You
website.
can
Oh, right,
just
right.
pick it off Google.
It's
All
like
Yeah,
right.
that
like,
place where these random team generator.
yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Shall I start?
Yeah, Nikhil.
Awesome.
Yo, BPAT, gamification, yo.
I hope all the 6 teams are here.
Yeah.
The first one will be Malvika.
So, Malvika, please raise your hand. I'll add you to the stage, and then accordingly, you can be getting the option. Yeah.
Hi. I can share my screen, right?
Yeah, yeah, you can share your screen and also turn your camera if possible.
Yeah, just a second. Yeah, sorry, not prepared for camera.
How do you prepare for camera?
Slightly better than this.
It's only
No
a
problem.
small miss.
Okay, so let me just figure out how to share here. Just a second. Yeah, can people see this?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So let me just quickly get into the first problem statement. I haven't really written down the problem statement because of what Anand just mentioned time and again. It is going to be repeated. So, yeah. So problem statement one. I mean, we were trying to look at differentiating between uh, the parents and the kids who are using the application, right? So more like the user split. How
Yeah,
do
it
we
was
know who's
basically like
playing?
how can we determine whether it's just parents checking it out and getting bored, or is it kids who are checking it out and getting bored?
Right,
If
right,
it's parents, how can we easily ensure that they kind of pass it on to
right.
kids, right? That's
Yeah. So what I noticed when I downloaded the application was that I mean, as soon as I downloaded it, I just got started with the game itself.
mm-hmm.
Right. So what I thought would be a good solution for that is to first define the relevant user types and introduce separate segments of user workflows on the basis of their respective motivations. So we define the user types. We look at their goals and motivations, and then we define a separate workflow for each one of them. And then we come up with nudges for them. For example, in this case, like on the left, if you can see an example for each of the user segments. Let's say a parent, right? So, parent, as soon as he opens the application, he wants to know what exactly this is going to do for my child rather than jumping into the game immediately, right? He wants to know more about the application first, and then he wants to know what exactly it is going to do for his child. So that, I believe, is a suitable nudge, and the parent would want to know more, and then we can define a user flow on the basis of who the user segment is, right? So for example, parent, in this case, I will just want to click on no more, and then the next thing I see is probably a explainer video about what exactly Big Fat Phoenix is all about, and then move on to probably something like a sample, a very short game, like a 1 minute game or 2 minute game, and just to give him a feeler of what he's paying for rather than trying to get him to play the entire game, right? And similarly, if I'm a kid, I'm a student, I'm not really interested in what it is going to do to me. I'm going to be interested in what kind of game it has so that I start playing immediately, right? So that is what I thought of for the first session player split, as such, to identify and bucket as to who the user is. And moving on, how to make sure that parents pass the game on to the kids is I mean, give them a free diagnostic test. So now, once he's on let's say his chalked out user journey, he is looking at what the app is all about, and the next thing is probably give him a diagnostic test, right? Like, to just to evaluate and highlight areas of confidence and concerns of the kid's persona. So he will definitely make the kid play it, and he's not going to play it himself because it's a diagnostic test and it's free. So this should ensure that the parent is motivated enough to make sure that the kid starts playing. So this is one recommendation for that. And then problem statement 2, yeah, what percentage would convert to subscribers? So I was not a part of the AMA session, so I mean, disclaimer, I have made some assumptions here. So historic data, if there is historic data, then we can just stick to understanding all the sales and marketing channels and forecast subscribers on the basis of historic conversion rates. And additionally, if we are going to accommodate any changes to the sales and marketing strategies as such, then we will also make those changes for subscriber projections as well. Then industry benchmarks, of course, here we'll have to depend on secondary research data, and then look at what exactly is an appropriate conversion rate for industry, this particular category in the industry. And then recommended model, since I was not sure if we had historic data or industry benchmarks, I just went with my own proprietary model, if you may. So this is like creating a short explainer video and provide the option for the user to express interest in a subscription to arrive at the total addressable market. And then you use the total addressable market to project subscriber numbers. So to just jump a little deeper into this. Yeah, so basically, what I'm proposing is that we create a video explainer providing product overview, detailing pain points and the features addressing them. Try to make it as brief as probably a minute or a minute and a half, and then detailed subscription options. So at this point, I suppose we have different subscription options on the table to be discussed, and provide for customization or additional requests and other customer feedback to collect changes that might lead to additional conversions. So,
Hi Malvika, just to check on your time, only 1 minute is left.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
let me just close this very quickly. So, moving on. So, basically, what I'm trying to say is that we can get subscription commitments from video explainers, and also we can provide for the users to give us some feedback that will help us work on additional conversions as well, and thereby come at a total addressable market. So we can consider the subscription commitments as total addressable market, and on the basis of that, probably we can use a conservative multiplier like a 20-30% of the TAM that we have arrived at can probably be converted in the first quarter, or something in those lines. And moving on, so this is a very famous case study. Would be the Dropbox case. They did something very similar to that. I don't really have the time to show you the quick explainer video, so I'm just moving on. Then last segment, recommended pricing. So one thing is that since it is a niche product operating in a nascent market at a very early stage, so I would look at profit generation as a fitting pricing objective over probably any other pricing objective. Let's say competitive pricing or alternative pricing, or um, market share. uh, I mean, pricing as to gain more market share quickly. So as opposed to all of those objectives, I would say profit generation would be the most fitting objective. And since we are looking at progressive parents, assuming they're interested beyond your regular curriculum, and also possess a reasonably good paying capacity, we can look at premium pricing. But the problem with profit generation and premium pricing as of now is that since, like I mentioned, we are in a nascent market, we are going to be compared with the likes of Vedantu or Byju's, which are very traditional apps, right? So I since Indian parents are very price sensitive, I don't think they would be interested in paying for an app like this beyond what they would pay for a entire year's subscription for your regular CBSE class 6 curriculum. So the launch price can be a little conservative. We can start with a 4,500 annual subscription, and then look at a 3,000 monthly subscription parallelly. And once we have clear response from the market and create a market itself for the product that we are looking at, we can go back to the premium pricing strategy that initially I was recommending for uh, Big Fat Phoenix. So yeah, I hope I made time.
Yeah, you did pretty cool.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the presentation, Malvika. Anand and Bhavna, in case you have any questions, you can pose them to her.
Yeah, I actually do have one question in your next slide. And do you mind if I go first?
No, no,
Yeah, yeah,
please,
sure.
please.
So could you just like quickly explain the, like you said, so are you recommending that we launch with a yearly, like an annual subscription first, and then once we stabilize that and find out what our like metrics are and what the top of the funnel looks like?
Yeah, annual and monthly. Yeah,
So you're saying like price it at monthly at 3,000 and yearly at like, I don't know, 4,500,
yeah, sort of.
right?
So again, this is like an introductory pricing, right? So once we beef it up further, like once we have a clear market response and we understand where we are headed, we can probably add additional features, beef it up a little, and then go back to premium pricing.
I wish you were my VC if you thought that there's that kind of price tolerance in India. I was like, I'd be delighted if I can prove I can sell it at that price point. I'd be like super happy with it. Our actual estimates are far lower than that
Okay,
for India. For India,
okay, okay.
especially for exactly for the reason that you said, right? Indians will pay for curriculum. Non-curriculum, we don't know. It's the tolerance won't be that high. It's
So
hard. We don't know.
so i
But it,
think i think it'll depend on our strategy, right? Like if the way that we describe what the subscription benefits are and how we position ourselves while like marketing for the subscription, whatever, if we can, without saying it, I mean without muddling the messaging, if we can show that the value that they're getting out of say 4,500 a year or like 3,000 a month or whatever, if we can show that the value is equal or more than the CBSE syllabus for 6 standard, for example.
Yeah,
yeah, but I'm just saying that I'm not talking about the annual subscription of 4,500 is fine. I was just talking about the monthly
Monthly,
subscription
yeah,
of
correct.
8.
That's why I was a little confused.
Yeah,
That's why I was asking.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the
That was-
point of monthly is just giving an option, but nudging them towards the annual subscription at the end of the day. Not really.
but if you, my hypothesis is if you give such a big differential, they'll smell bullshit. Uh, because you see, you're giving a discount of like from 36,000 rupees, you're saying I'll give it to you for 4,500, no? So
Right. I mean,
it'll
I
smell
just
bullshit. I would smell bullshit straight
correct.
away. I'd be like, why? Right? If it was, it shouldn't, like, the differential can be like whatever, 20, 25%. I don't think so.
right.
But no, but very cool. See, what I really liked about your thought process is the idea that you said just make and explain a video and put it out there and test it, right? And calculate TAM. See, I don't even like, I'm not even going to go into how do you derive TAM from that? We can do it. There'll be some proxy, something we can figure out and we can do it. I'm not concerned about that level of granularity right now, but I kind of like that general idea of just putting up and explain a video somewhere. Just put that, go after it, and try and gauge price sensitivity from there. That's what appealed to me about your presentation. It's pretty cool. No further questions from me.
Yeah, and so we have been toying with the idea of like putting a like a split in the flow right up front, saying, hey, if you're a parent, go do this. If you're a child, go do this. But like basically instead of splitting the flow, you're saying change the flow entirely so that like if they tap on parent versus teacher versus child, they just see entirely different things. For example, what the benefit is if you're a non-child entrant into the app.
Yeah, so that kind of what it does, I like that because it elegantly solves two problems at one time. In that you can. The reason we didn't do that is because we were not entirely sure if people will answer it truthfully, especially kids. Parents will. There's no reason for parents, but also sometimes when I sign up for edtech apps and stuff like that, just to check them out, I say that I'm a child. I don't say that I'm a parent. So we were not entirely sure about what would be the accuracy of something like that, but
There is always going to be that normal loss, right?
yeah, how much?
Yeah, there's always going to be that normal loss no matter what we think of.
Like,
And
but okay, do you have any idea of what that error percentage would be?
you're talking about a really inquisitive uh, audience who have seen a lot of these and who really want to see what it is actually. I mean, who want to see through the bullshit, like you just mentioned, right? Like, there's so many apps. Wow, what am I really paying for? So, if we were to talk about such inquisitive users, I would not give them more than. I mean, I would say the normal loss would be 10 to 15%.
10 to 15% around both sides.
Yeah, but as a normal, let's say a parent user type, right? The moment I look at the app, I want to know more about it. I want to know what it is rather than playing the game first.
Are you basing this on your gut feel, or did you talk to few people?
I mean, I just ran it through some of my, let's say, colleagues or peers when as I was working on the presentation. So
Hmm.
I just had them validated like a basic hygiene check, but of course I've not been able to do a in-depth.
Sure, sure, of course.
Yeah.
Okay.
Malvika, one last question. Do you know what version of the app you played? The version.
Not really.
Okay, that's
Not
fine.
really.
Okay, that's
Did I
thank you.
miss something?
No. I was
Yeah.
because we've had a few releases in the past couple of weeks, so I was just
So I think it was somewhere around the 16th. Sorry, 1 day or 2 days before the 16th.
okay. I can figure it out based on that.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. That was it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the presentation, Malvika.
Thank you.
Nikhil, we can move on to the next person.
Yes. Jaldeep.
Jaideep, can you please raise your hand? I'll add you to the stage.
Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, you're audible and visible. Can you please try sharing the screen?
Okay, just a is my screen visible now?
Yeah, it's visible.
Just let me know when to start.
Yeah, whenever you're ready, you can start.
Okay, so I will just start now.
Okay.
Haim Ginot once said children are like wet cement. Whatever falls on them makes an impression. So that sums up social emotional learning, the methodology on which we have built our product, Fair Stories. Talking about Fair Stories, it uses story-based role-playing games to teach children values. In today's product teardown, I will focus on the same. I chose to go with the second problem statement, where the expected outcomes are essentially to find a reliable method to estimate the percentage of users who would convert into paying subscribers, and a price range for the subscription plan that is reasonable and viable. So I bifurcated the user personas into two groups, parents and children. There are two children, Priyanshu Kate and Arnavi Mathur. Arnavi is a proactive user who discovered the app of her own curiosity, as she loves fictional stories on the application. Whereas Priyanshu is encouraged and sort of coerced by his mother to use this app. Our proactive parent persona is Shilpa Kate. She is Priyanshu's mother. She discovered the CASEL methodology. For her, it is important to track and know how her child is developing as per the CASEL framework. Deepak Mathur, Arnavi's father, believes that good fictional stories help children develop a good set of value system, and that is what he expects the app to deliver. But how do we know who is going to pay for a subscription? It is definitely the highly engaged users that will eventually pay. But to identify such users, we need to know what exactly are the pain points of these users and how can we register the interest that they show. We know the pain points. The children need more interesting stories, where the parents, on the other hand, want to know exactly whether their children are developing and how they are developing. The core part of identifying subscribers is to register user interest. I have narrowed down three solutions for the same. The first two are measuring the interests of parents and children. The third is introducing a 2 week trial period. To register parents' interest, we could add a simple button on the persona page. Here, the parents will sign up to receive weekly reports of their child's progress. With this, we have a clear metric, that is the number of signups to track parents' interest. For the children, we could give them an option to receive a notification when new stories are up. Thereby, we can keep a track of the children who are hungry for more content. Again, we have number of signups as a simple metric to gauge the interest of the children. Finally, assuming that we have a working premium product, we can offer a 14-day free trial. That way, we can track people who have signed up for the trial and even those who continue to engage with the premium product during that trial period, thereby making it easy for us to predict the number of users who would eventually pay for the product. Now, looking at the engagement metrics, they do help us develop a clearer picture. We can determine the number of users that are likely to pay for a subscription when we look at our user interest metrics in the context of other engagement metrics. I utilize the RISE scoring model to prioritize all the three solutions that I've narrowed down. Now, coming to the second part of the problem statement, I believe the price of any product has to be reasonable to the user, viable for the business, and competitive. Since our users primarily come from upper middle class households in India, we have a few considerations to keep in mind. These considerations relate to their financial acumen, the value that they put on their child's education and development, and the potential market for our product. Based on these considerations and some data, I made a few assumptions. First, we assume that a family spends roughly 3,000 to 5,000 rupees monthly on subscriptions for essential services. Then we look at the pricing of our indirect competitors in the market, in the edtech space specifically. After that, approximately a family spends 1,80,000 on a child's education. And for these families, developing a child's social emotional skills is very invaluable. Usually, these families would spend around 250 to 500 rupees on fiction books for their children. Finally, we have a decent sized target market if we assume a 50% market penetration. Keeping these considerations in mind, I believe we could offer a simple monthly or yearly subscription option for our customers. This could be in the range of rupees 250 to 500 for monthly subscription plan, or rupees 2,500 to 5,000 for a yearly plan. So that was my two-part solution for the given problem statement. With that, I will conclude my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you for the presentation. Anand and Bhavna, any questions?
Yeah, no, that was a remarkably concise presentation. I still remember it from when I read it when I was shortlisting, right? So it was very remarkably well presented and very well put together, very clear, crisp, to the point. I really, really liked it. Just a couple of quick questions. One of the things early on is one observation and a couple of questions, right? One of the things for us to do things like send notification stuff for a children's product, it's actually very difficult because of COPA and GDPR compliance issues. Children's apps can't send notifications and stuff like that. It's not allowed, especially now that Apple and Google have both tightened up on their rules. So those kind of solutions are harder for us to implement. It's the obvious thing, right? Send in a notification when there's a new. So that's just an observation, because a lot of people suggested that sort of thing. But you should know, as budding product managers, that if you're going to be working on kids products, those are all things that you can't take for granted. The question simply was, when you said subscription for essential services, what kind of essential services do you mean?
So usually families have essential subscriptions like they spend on their milk, day-to-day vegetables
Oh,
and
you're talking about
cable.
that range of
Yeah,
essential. Okay, right,
yeah.
right.
So everything from like so what what kind of money they are comfortable to spend.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
so can you scroll up to that slide?
yeah,
Just
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay. So this is basically like monthly renewed things, like for example, milk or gas, or
yeah. Gas,
I'm assuming
electricity.
this doesn't include groceries.
Uh, yeah, yeah. Not groceries.
So, and what is the second point there? 800 to 1000 monthly subscription, one time payment you put.
So that was for like our edtech competitors. So I looked at like how Tata Study, some Vedantu, Byju's, all of these people sort of like some of them priced. They have annual subscriptions for their academic plans.
Right.
So
So you
that is
looked at
like
edtech products.
yeah.
Okay, okay.
But since they are not our direct competitors, we can't really price in their range.
Correct, correct. That's actually pretty cool. Just I'm also interested in point four, right? When you say for these people developing the side's child social emotional skill is invaluable, is that your belief or did you sort of validate that anywhere?
Uh, I didn't actually validate it with any data, but you could say that it was my belief or assumption.
It's an assumption. Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so I actually had this question for like a lot of the presentations had user personas, right? And I know that some of that information came from us, but like, did you talk to like one or two people who might fit these profiles to get any, like, any?
Like yeah, I talked to a nephew of mine. So his name is also Priyanshu. So that
Got
is
it.
yeah.
And
So
how old
I
is,
sorry.
sorry, how old is he?
So he is 11. So I talked to him. I talked to his mother also to get an idea like what if you could get a product like this. So that is so I didn't do an extensive study. Like I didn't get to time to talk to a lot of users.
Yeah, of course, sure.
That's fine, of course. I
No
was
worries.
wondering if you even spoke to like one person that helps you like kind of form that idea of like what they want, right? So
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
No, but thanks, Jaldeep. This was a really, really good presentation. I wish there were product managers in companies who made such neat and clear and short presentations. Like you could probably save like millions of dollars in wasted meeting time.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation, Jaldi.
Uh,
Yeah, Nikhil, over to you.
Yes, yes. Just 1 second. Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
This thing is pretty cool. This wheel. We should totally use it in our meetings. BPAD.
Sanjana and Nikunj.
Folks, please raise your hand so that I can add you to the stage. Hi, Sanjana. Hi, Nikunj.
Hi everyone.
Hello.
Yeah, so you guys are both audible and visible, so you can share your screen.
Awesome.
Just 1 second. Is my screen visible?
Yeah.
Great. Hi
I
everyone.
like the way you've put our loading screen at 55% on your presentation thing. That just reminds us of our single biggest problem. Thanks for that.
Yes, we did notice that.
Yeah.
Hi everyone. I am Sanjana Deshpande, and with me I have Nikun Chandak. And let's get to the Big Fat Phoenix Interactive Teardown.
Great. So me and Sanjana, we have a story. We have a story to tell. But before that, I want to introduce you to the characters of our story. We have Seema, who is a lawyer and a mother of two, who is 42 years old from Mumbai. Then we have Manya, an engineer who is 40 years old. and she's from Delhi. And then we have Siddha, who is a fun-loving daughter of Manya. So let's go to the story.
So Seema and Manya are friends and they're meeting after a really long time. And they're discussing how kids these days really need a holistic education for their personality and their development. They're also discussing how Seema's daughter is constantly on her phone and playing mindless games and watching random videos. Manya completely empathizes with that, and she suggests to Seema that I have come across a game by Fairside Stories through an ad on Google, and she has passed it on to her daughter, Siddha. So let's go and check out what Siddha thinks about it. So Siddha mentions that her mom introduced her to the game. She did play it, and she was really interested because she enjoys stories and comic books. And this game made her decide where the story goes. She did start off with the first game, but she did not finish it, and eventually she forgot about it and did not pick it up again. So now we would just want to quickly take you through user journeys from parent and child perspective.
Great. So for the journey of the user, we have divided the entire journey into 5 segments. The first segment is the discover, where the user discovers the application. For parents, it would be a Google ad, and for a child, it would be when the mother passes the phone to the child for her to play. The second is explore, which is basically the first minute interaction that the user has with the application. Over here, we notice that like both the problems for both the users kind of same. The first being that it takes too much time for the screen to load. The second one is people don't know what persona is. They don't know what uh, trophies are because it is kind of low. So those were the problems that they face in the expo. And then they jump to the engaging part, which is when the user starts playing the game. So when the user plays the game, they identify that the game, it actually takes a lot of time before they try to make a selection. The second is there is too much text for them to read, and also there is music which they cannot mute. So moving on to the sharing part, we see that the child does not have that parameter because the child does not share. But Manya, our user persona, decides that she will not share the application with the child. And hence, in the success matrix, which is basically to see if the user returns and play the game, we see that the parent actually uninstalls the application and the child does not play the game again. So we kind of try to identify the problems that user faced. So in the explore section, we realized that the intro is not very clear and it is not available after the first session is done. To solve this problem, we kind of suggest an introductory storyline to introduce the application by a game character. Other than that, we want a CTA button that helps user to replay the introduction again in case they are using it for the first time. The second problem is like the the concept of persona does not get unlocked unless an entire chapter is finished, and the chapter has around 8 lessons. So this kind of kills the motivation of the player, and hence we suggest that there is some part of persona gets unlocked, which shows like a percentage of who you are like gets unlocked after each and every question to keep the child engaged in the process.
Then we come to the engagement and success part of the journey. So the first problem we saw here was that games are very long and it takes more than 20 minutes to complete them. So here we could visually break down a story into chapters on the story's landing page itself. So that makes the player less anxious and gives them a better view of effort versus reward.
That is the literally the reason that your presentation is in the shortlist, by the way.
Okay.
That idea. It's damn cool.
Okay. We can also show them that the chapters, these chapters are logged and these have been completed. Similarly, it shows that there's a lot of content available for the player to go through. Also, another suggestion is that we can have more decision-making questions in a single story
Yeah.
rather than after a lot of clicks, so that they don't feel like they're reading a lot. There's one small suggestion of having a mute option because that's something
So I
that's
just want to cut in at that point. A lot of people, a lot of presentations said that, give a mute option. But when we worked at Hike, we realized that nobody ever clicks on a mute button. They just cut the volume on the phone itself. So
oh,
it's
okay.
it's actually not worth the effort of putting in a mute button into a game because people just never use it. We saw that at Hike. They just actually, if those who don't want the sound, just actually just mute the phone itself.
Understood.
You should. I'm saying that so that you all know this. It's
Yeah.
the behavior.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. The last part was related to how if someone drops off, they probably forget about the game or they uninstall it, so we could get them back. But like you just mentioned, notifications is
No,
a
these
lot.
notifications you can do.
That's fine.
Local notification you can send.
Okay, perfect.
Push notification you can't send.
Understood.
Yeah.
Got it. So that was something that could help us bring back some of the users and remind them to complete a few
Yeah.
stories. Now coming to the main problem statement that we had.
Yeah, can you click on next? Thanks.
Yeah.
So we kind of chose the first problem, and the goal of that problem was to identify the type of players who are dropping off in the first game. Is it a parent or is it a child? And the second was to ensure the parent passes on the product to the kids to play. So the second problem we have tried to solve in the solutions that we have provided to you before this. Now we'll focus on the problem number one.
Right. So what we've done
Please.
is that we have divided the approach into two parts. For its first visit to the app and then subsequent visits. So in the first visit, the user flow works in such a way that after installing and opening the app, the user has to answer 5 basic questions, which are very just clickable and easy to read. This gives us a result as to whether the user could be a parent or a child. And then we take them to different modes depending upon the result. While we do that, we give them a pop-up showing which mode they are entering into. In case our assessment is incorrect, they can change that. So in a parent mode, we give them an interactive introduction about the game, like we mentioned earlier. After that introduction, the parent can see a sample story so that they get an idea of the value proposition. In case of a child, they see the same introduction about the game, but after completing it, they go to the stories landing page where they can see the bunch of stories available. How this helps us is that it addresses the needs of child and parent separately. A child requires quick introduction and then good entertainment within their attention span. Parent requires a quick idea of the value proposition. Also, giving mode option, it gives them the flexibility and gives us the flexibility of trying to identify and giving them different experiences. It helps us separately track drop-offs for the first session as well as subsequent session related assessments. If there is a drop off by child, it is most likely because of content issue or unrelatable or boring content. So that can have a different approach to be solved. If a parent drops off, it could be because of likely value proposition issue or introduction that they've not understood or anything related to content. Also, having a separate flow helps us in a way that a child's history of playing our game end to end is retained, because it's not that the parent plays half a story and then the child continues from it. Just a sample of one of those 5 questions could be, select
Hi,
one.
Sanjana and Nikunj. A quick check. Only 1 minute left, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you saw the questions, one of them had Bonvita and the other one has T. So it's very likely that the user, like if the user is a parent, he'll pick T, and if the user is a child, he'll pick Bonvita. Moving on, I just wanted to take you through the flow of what happens if the user revisits the application. So the application opens up in a child-friendly mode, and the user is informed that the mode in which he is currently in is a child mode, and he can switch to the parent mode by a toggle button that we provide on the top. If the user is in the child phase or the child if the user is in the child screen, what he'll see is he'll see the stories that we have for him. He'll see the percentage of persona that he has completed, and he also sees his profile. Similarly, if the parent is in the child screen and then he toggles it down to the parent mode, he'll see the sample game that we have for them. He also sees the progress that the child has made in the persona and other insights like I'll tell you in the other points. Moving on. Why
Yeah,
this is
just to
important
add
is
over
because
here, having a separate flow for parent, also we can, incorporate a lot of parent specific things over there, such as payment options, subscriptions,
Yeah. I
type
mean,
of way
don't
setup.
you have very little time. That's obvious. Don't worry about that. Just keep going. Yeah.
Okay, so we'll move on to Moscow prioritization. So, Sanjana, if you want to take
Yeah.
this up.
So Moscow prioritization. So the must-haves over here would be the 5 questions to identify type of user, as well as parent and child mode toggle option, and more decisions for players to make within a story. Should have would be unlocking personas earlier or giving more motivating visuals for that. Visually showing chapters under a story, like I'd mentioned, and a notification plan in order to retain them as well. Could haves would be interactive introduction, since that might take some time for us to make. And setting up profile and relatable stories would also come over here. And muting option for music is something that is not a priority, does not affect our engagement metrics. So it's something we won't have initially.
Yeah, so that concludes our presentation, and we are open for any questions that you guys have.
Yeah, so no, it's really cool. I really like some of the thinking, right? Like breaking up chapters into this one, giving parents like 5 questions, all of that, and some of those things like giving parents questions, having different flow. A lot of people have actually come up with it, but I like the way you all have handled it, and there's just simple questions like you're not asking explicitly, are you a parent or are you a kid? You're just asking for some random questions, and we can sort of a lot of other people also, to be fair, if you all are here in this presentation, some of you said which cartoon character reminds you of your childhood. I thought that was a pretty cool way to kind of find out. The only problem is you'll find people like me who will then age ourselves like around 20, 30 years younger, but that's an outlier. So by and large, that's a really cool way to go about it. So I really liked that. If you could just go back a couple of slides,
Yeah.
I'll just keep going. Um, yeah, just pause here, right? What I want to kind of understand a couple of things, right? What would you say is abandonment? How would you define abandonment?
So suppose we know that they have dropped off in the middle of a story, right? They've not completed it. We know the average time that it takes to complete a story. If they abandon it and they do not come within
Again,
the next.
just another, I just want to kind of point out here because as a common, lot of people have said time, right? We don't count time necessarily. We just have a counter that says they finished it. So
Okay.
it's not a video. Like a lot of the thinking is because of video, and videos move in time. Games do not. So for games, we just actually just put in a counter when they finish the game. That's how it works.
Uh,
Okay.
to jump in over here, so the time. So I understand the video as a timer, but over here we had to have like around 50 to 60 clicks when we were playing this Mark the X Sport story
Correct.
before we have to come up with a decision. So that time, so reading span, if we try to read each and every box, that like combined time takes around 20 to 24 minutes to complete a
Still
particular
doesn't
story.
matter. You'll know whether they've abandoned or not if they've completed or not, right? It's
Correct,
not,
correct.
you
So
don't
if
have to
they're
look at
dropping
the
off,
time.
we would already know that. So that is
Yeah.
something that we would consider as abandonment.
Right.
So my question is, how do you say that if they have abandoned? At what point would you say that they've abandoned?
One is if they don't complete a story. Second is if even after completing a story, they do not come back to us and initiate the next one. So we already have identified a funnel of people who are continuing with second story, third story. So if they even after completing, they're not coming back, then that also can be considered as abandonment.
For how long? Not coming back for how long?
Then again, the time element would come into picture. Then if we expect them to come again at least the next day or
Day.
say within the same
1 day.
week.
Okay.
Because we are bringing in new stories on weekly basis, if that is also a nudge to get them to us again, but they're still not coming, then we can consider that as well as an abandonment.
Mm-hmm. Cool. No further questions from me.
Yeah, no, I don't have any questions. I really like the idea of like showing them some sort of like summary before they start saying, hey, you have 8 chapters to do, and this is how much you've done. And maybe show that up every time a new chapter starts so that they. But right now we have a chapter counter, but maybe it's better to show them a visual representation. I really like that idea.
Yeah. No, that's great. Really cool. Thanks, folks.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sanjana. Thank you, Nikanj.
Thank you. Yeah.
Over to you, Nikhil.
Yes.
So Radhika and Manan are at the next presenters. I'll add you guys.
Is Let me know if you can see my screen.
I hope I'm audible.
Yeah, you're both audible and visible, and the screen is also visible.
Sure. Radhika, you want to start?
Yeah. So, one second. Let me just close the chat. Yeah. Can you go to the first slide?
I'm
The
on the
first
first slide.
slide, introduction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi. So, good evening. I'm Radhika, and my colleague here is Manan. So, we'll just dive right into the presentation. Right. So, I'm sorry. Is there any way to maximize this and not one sec? Okay, perfect. Right. So the problem statement that we've taken up is as shown here, that we want to ascertain two things. One, what percent of our first session players are parents? And second, how can we ensure that parents are actually passing on to the product? So here we've listed down a few key features of the app, the insights, the competitors. And one thing that I would like to highlight here is that while it was given to us that Fairside does not have any direct competitors, but at the same time, Indian parents, especially in today, they really they have a lot of options where SEL learning is being offered in a much more personalized format, which we feel that Fairside is not covering right now. That is just a point that we can keep in mind while moving forward. When we talk about segmentation, yeah, I mean, we already got the user persona, which we have used and which is completely valid. Talking about user personas, so our target audience is, I mean, the game is obviously made for kids, but it is the parents who are actually going to play the kids. So that's why we want to divide the user persona, one for parent, one for child, so that we can exactly identify what are the pain points for each user persona and tackle them. So as we see here, for the user persona of a parent, I'm going to cover here the pain points which are not being covered by the app already. So some of these are that, of course, they want that the kid enjoys learning. These are liberal, progressive parents who want their child to get a holistic learning, but they also want to be able to track the progress, which is something that is not there in SEL right now because it's such a subjective field. And the third is that they also want a personalized approach because every child is different. And we feel that any parent who understands the importance of SEL recognizes that as well. When we talk about the user persona of a child, we've considered here Myra, who's a 10-year-old. And of course, she likes playing games. We've considered that, but also we've tried to bring in some insights of her personality as to why she would want to indulge in these games. And one of them is, of course, she doesn't want a traditional game and she wants instant rewards for doing things, for doing actions.
So, moving on to the user journey, we've divided the user journey into 4 different parts. One is the onboarding, where the user is getting onboarded onto the system, downloads the application, and gets to see what the application looks like. The other part is selection, where the user is selecting a particular game. The third is the gameplay, where the user is actually performing some activities within the game. And the final one is the feedback, which we receive at the very end when the game has been completed, when the story has been completed. So, in terms of the pain points on every single part here, so lack of clarity is something that leads to less understanding at the beginning, whether this app is made for children or how does a parent access it, how does a child access it. When we move to selection, there's no structured roadmap. Every student, every child gets to see X marks the spot as the first story. They cannot act, and as per the data that we've been given, 80% of the people are choosing X marks the spot as the first story. Some of the stories like X marks the spot are too text heavy. They have a lot of text at the beginning as well, and it takes a long time to complete. So, talking from my own perspective here, it took me a lot of time to complete X marks the story. I was not able to complete the whole story, got bored in between. But when it came to the pandemic story, where I had to make the choices, it was such an interesting game that I've tried it 2-3 times just to get the best
Mhm.
possible combination out of it. Finally, the feedback, it takes a lot of time to get the feedback, and the feedback is not really detailed. We just get to see one of the 4 personality traits of the user. And that is one point where we believe that if the user is investing about 10-15 minutes in completing a story, there should be a holistic feedback at the end. To tackle all these and problems that we had, we took 4 approaches very similar to the personality traits that we have at Fairside Stories. So the first one is how to ascertain who is playing. For that, we've used 2 methods. One is the analytics method, which is like a very quick method, and a very robust method to actually detect whether the user who's playing is a parent or a child. The next is a feature, that is the parent section. Third one is a personalized app interface, and finally gamification and rewards, which we'll talk about. Coming on to the reading speed, it took me a lot of time to decide whether I should go with the kind approach for it. And by the kind, I mean it's kind for the developers, that they don't have to spend a lot of time in developing such a thing. What we're using here is the data. The key differentiating factor between a parent and a child, an adult and a child, is the reading speed. And that has been verified through a lot of research papers as well. We were able to test it out as well and found out that for me, for example, if I was playing X Marks the Spot, the first 10 lines of the story, that is approximately 90 words, it took me about 20 to 25 seconds to go through it by pressing the next button. Whereas a child, so Radhika's cousin, a 10-year-old child, took about 40 to 45 seconds. We did test it on one person, one adult and one child. Took about 40 to 45 seconds, which kind of proved that this thing actually works. The reading speed is a little different for a child as compared to an adult. When it comes to the actual implementation plan for the same, we just need to take those 10 lines, need to add an analytic event just after the 10 lines on the call to action button, the next button. And using that, we can identify whether it's a child or an adult. In case we need to get to a more robust solution, what we need to do is get a control environment, test the feature out on some adults, like 15-20 adults, 15-20 children, take out the average and use that as a benchmarking data.
Right.
Hi,
So coming
Manandan,
to
I'll
the
take a quick time check.
Yeah.
Only 1 minute left, guys.
Okay. So coming to the next feature that we have, which is the parent section. The aim of this section is that we allow the parents to have a separate section where they can see subscription and payment options. They can see a performance report. So as Anand was saying, that Indian parents love structure. They want something in the form of a curriculum. So giving a performance report and giving them a roadmap as to which games should my child be playing so as to progress in his or her SEL goals. Similarly, so when we personalize this, the first game that shows up for each child will be very different based on their personalization journey, which I'll cover here. So the personalization part is essentially that first we show them a basic explainer video to help the parents understand what the game is about, so they feel more comfortable giving the game to their children to play. And this is also followed by a user reward. So they're incentivized to continue. And once on the parent profile, we give them a short questionnaire, which will basically help us understand the personality of the child and allow us to personalize the game's roadmap for the child. We will keep showing them progress reports, and the outcome of this is that we increase stickiness, retention, and the user base also increases while reducing friction.
Finally, coming on to the last solution, gamification and rewards. In a gaming app, why not make the process gamified as well? Why not give the user different kinds of rewards within the game so that the user does not drop off? To ensure engagement and and more retention, less drop off, we can include new avatars, trophies, wallpapers, coins, which the user can get while completing different chapters of the story. This will also make sure that the user is not getting bored while playing a long story, and they continuously get some feedback for the actions that they've taken. Once again, coming to the last thing, that's the prioritization. We believe that that a problem can be solved by working fast as soon as possible. So a must-have priority one solution for us is the reading speed check, which does not require much of development efforts and more of a data analytic effort, which is backed by a lot of researches as well as hypothetical tests that we have conducted.
Right. Great. Thanks. That's a super, detailed and thorough and well presented deck, right? Really appreciate the amount of work that you all have put in. I just have a couple of questions and then just a couple of observations. If you just go back to your summary slide, that's a good slide, right? Just the summary. The last but one, this one, right? See, if I would ask you, if you look at your suggestions for gamification and rewards and parents section and even a personalized app interface, those things take months to build, especially when you're building for children, right? You can't build a bad UI. Everything has to be really, really cool when you're building for children. Remember that. You're not building in Swiggy, right? With even if it looks like shit, people will be like, amazing gamification. But if for games, you can't do that. For kids, you can't do that, right? So these things will take months to build. If I were to ask you, say for the parent section, I wanted to pick one thing which you think would make the most difference, what would that be?
So, Radhika, you want to take this one?
Just gut
Yeah.
feel. It's not an
So,
exam. I'm just
yeah.
interested in.
So, gut feel. So, I would have gone with the questionnaire part, but again, the consequence of that would require, the result of it would require months to build. So, I feel the explainer video is the quickest thing that we can do, because that would help parents feel more comfortable in handing over the game
And similarly, for
to their
gamification
children.
and rewards, what would you build if you were to build only one thing?
So for gamification and rewards, if I want to build one thing, it'll be a reward section, a very simple menu within the application where I can track. So for example, you have that secrets part within the application that you're probably trying to like discontinue in the future. So converting that into a more attractive option where users are getting some rewards instantly as well, and just having this, just reusing that secrets part to include more and more rewards at different stages of the story. So
Yeah,
that'll
my
be like
art
a quick.
producer will kill you, but sure, go ahead. Art producer will have heart attack if you say we want to have like hundreds of rewards and shit like that. But no, I get it. So your theory is absolutely on point. So just an observation here in general, which I would like all budding product managers to understand, right? If something is not engaging, rewards to make it engaging is not a sustainable strategy. It's not, right? It
Right.
will only make your product worse, and it will make your product addictive, and it will make your product dependent on an extrinsic reward for its engagement. You cannot build like that for children. In fact, you must not build like that for children. Forget cannot. You must not. Please understand that. Adults, I don't care. Do what you want. I'm not getting into that debate. But when you're building for children, be very, very conscious of the kind of things that you are willing to put into your product. Idea of getting them to do things just for a reward is not usually not effective. And if it is effective, it also treads an ethically very, very ambiguous territory. Remember that people like Roblox are having problems. International organizations are clamping down on those kind of practices in children's products worldwide for games. So just keep that in mind. Your go-to answer should not be put some rewards. I get it. But your go-to answer should always be, how can we, like you said, your story is too long, make shorter stories. That's perfect, right? Don't put that much text. Put voiceover. Many people have said those are core improvements to the product, which should be our go-to. Slapping rewards onto it should not be our default thinking. Just a cautionary note, especially when you're building for children, right? But no, thank you very much. It was a really like fabulous. Lots of really valuable ideas in there, and you guys got through a lot of content in 5 minutes. So that's pretty awesome presentation.
I have a
Thank you.
quick
Yeah.
question. Can I still go?
Tanya said you have as much time as you want. So,
In your user persona for the kid, so you said that she likes reading, visual learning activities, um, doesn't want to study all the time, wants to play games, wants instant rewards, doesn't want to learn in a traditional way, right? How does that, like, for the child, right? Because at the end of the day, while we want our parents to think that they're getting value out of the app, at the end of the day, we want the kids to feel engaged. Like, that's the mother load, right? And then I sort of found that a little bit clashing with what you were talking about, how long, like, oh, there was a lot of text to read, and like you couldn't get through it, but like one of your nephews or nieces, I can't remember, did, right? So did you see any difference in behavior over there? Like, was the kid like, yeah, it took longer, but did they like want to read more?
Yeah. So like what my observation was when I got my niece to play was that if like the story was too long, she got bored really soon, because there was no decisions coming up, there were no choices coming up for her to make. And in other games which she usually loves to play, there is an instant reward which comes. Like if she plays, if she wins at something, there is a reward which comes in the form of points or something else. And when we talk about like traditional ways, so if I gave her a story to read, like a simple story, she wouldn't want to read that. But if I gave her the pandemic story, for example, she was finding it difficult, but she was of course into it as like at that point.
Okay, so basically length and
yeah.
anchoring bias.
That's not length. It's not a length problem. It's an agency problem. It's
Yeah.
not an amount of text problem. It is an amount of interaction problem. It
Yeah.
is
Right.
text to tap ratio. It's a technical game design problem. That is not a reading problem.
Right, exactly. So the pandemic game was also, it's not a small game, but her interest was a lot more in that.
Got it. Okay. Thanks. That was my question.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Radhika. Thank you, Manan.
Thank you.
Over to you, Nikhil.
Yes, we have 2 more teams to go.
Yep.
And I think this will be the last spin.
Suganya, if you can raise your hand, I'll add you to the stage.
Can you see me?
I
No,
cannot
like
see
John
you.
Cena, we cannot see you. Because your camera is not on. But don't sweat it, Suganya. If your camera is having, we can see you now. Yeah.
Yeah. Hi.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm just trying to share my screen. Just give me a minute.
No problem.
Can you see my screen?
No. Now we can. I think there's a lag.
Yeah,
Okay.
but now it's visible.
Yeah, it's visible.
Okay. Hi. Hi, I'm Suganya. Tanya, can I start presenting?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll go to the problem statement. Here, the problem statement we're addressing is currently only 20% of the players who start their first game is completing it. The remaining 80% drop off. We have to identify whether they are parents or kids and have to make sure that the parents are passing the product to the kids. Okay. So here the parent psyche is one of the important psyche because we have to convince the parent that the game is actually a good game and they have to pass on the product to the kid. I have analyzed the 25 parents. I've asked them whether they will monitor the kids game or not. So out of 25, 92% of the respondents said yes, they will check the game before
These
passing
were
it.
all parents in India?
Yes, all
Okay.
parents from India. Yes.
Okay.
So they will check the game before passing it on to the kid, and if they are not able to check it before, they will sit with the kid and see how it is being played. And 8% of the respondents said no, they won't interfere. So based on this, I have concluded that the aha moment of the parent is understanding the game, and the earlier they reach the aha moment in the funnel, the better chances for them to pass on the product to the kid. So I've analyzed two different parent persona. One is a stay-at-home mom, Nageshwari, and the other one is Prabha. She is a doctor who's running the hospitals. Like they have their own goals and motivations for giving the app to the kid. But one thing that is common between both of them is a validating process. How they validate the app before passing it on to the kid. Based on that, I've come up with these use cases. They wanted to understand what the kid is playing and what is the game content that is being shown to the kid, if the visuals are decent and age appropriate, if the kid is the game is interesting for the kid, if the kid is learning something useful, and if it is not mentally affecting the kid. This is the user journey, how exactly looks like for the parent persona. The pain points and solutions are discussed in the forthcoming slides. So when the parent get to know about the app through their friends or Google Ads, one thing they do is they go and check the website to understand what the game is all about, what the content is all about. So when we see the website, they have it's been mentioned that social and emotional learning is being taught to the kids, but there is no clear explanation of what is social and emotional learning and how it is going to benefit the kid. India being in its nascent stage of understanding SEL, so there is a huge responsibility for educating the parents what is SEL is all about. So my suggestion will be like adding a section about what is SEL and giving an FAQ section of commonly asked questions will help to build a trust on the game providers to the parent. And it will also affect the conversion rate directly. Then they go to the app store where they see the description of the app and okay, they see the description of the app, they see the video and the clippings. Everywhere the methodology is being clearly given. It's wonderful, but then there is no information about what are the skills that are developed for the kid by playing this game. So, giving a clipping of what are the skills that are developed, what are the social emotional skills developed, will give a clarity of what this game is all about. It again builds a trust in the process, in the funnel process that the parents are going through. Then they get into the app. The visuals are really great. They go through the app tour, and it's again the repetition of what they have already seen in the app store description. So replacing that with a mascot, where the mascot will kind of explain them what is what and how what is expected out of the user, will clear the ambiguity that they get out, like how the app is being played, and it also gives a good first time user experience. um, then they get into the story board of the game. Here, they go and hit the persona tab, they go and hit the secret tab, they kind of get bounced back and they go to the story section. This kind of a bump can be avoided by using the same mascot, where the mascot will be explaining like what is the tabs all about and handhold them to the story section. So this again give a good first time user experience and increases the engagement. Okay, and as well as they get into the first story, they see these characters there, and they kind of get a feel. Okay, I'm going to be one among these characters when they play the game. So as and when they enter into the game, they understood the actual you word is the user, and there's no character depiction of themselves in the game. That kinds of spoil the personalization feel that they could get out of a game. So letting them choose an avatar or a character for themselves and using that in later in the game will help to give that personalization experience, gaming experience that increases the user engagement and retention. Then when as they read through the story, they have to go through 38 statements to see what exactly the game is all about, how the questions is asked and how the kids are judged. So and they have to go through this with a very distracting music as they are reading a story. They don't like to be distracted.
How do you
Use
know that?
I've checked with the parents.
So this was actual feedback from parents telling you that the music is distracting.
Yes,
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So milder music, which could make them little more comfortable, and smaller stories in the start, which kind of get them comfortable with the game mode, will help in with this problem.
As
Additional
one quick time check, only 1 minute is left.
Okay. Additional feature I've given here, asking them a personalized question like which cartoon character reminds your childhood.
Yeah.
This is a very personal question for anyone. A 40-year-old will give it as Popeye or Scooby Doo or He-Man. A 10-year-old will give it as Dora or Sophie. So this will kind of give an approximate age of who is the user without actually asking them who is it. An additional feature of like giving a sample program for the sample story for a for the parent to play before even they get into the game. This kind of shifts their aha moment from like getting into the first story, which is the fifth step. It is shifted to the third step. So this increases the chances for them to understand the game and sooner to pass on to the actual target audience. Giving a share button for the parent, it's kind of a proud moment for the parent where they can share a social feed that they are socially and SAR encouraging mom or dad, and they can boast about that in their friends and community. This also creates a compulsion for them to pass on the game to the kids. I've used the value effort prioritization matrix here. Based on the prioritization, personalization questions, reward points. Okay, since because of the time crunch, I'm avoiding few solutions that I have suggested here. Hope that should be fine. So personalization questions, reward points, and sample games should be implemented first. And based on the problem statement, solution 5, 6, 8, and 9 should be implemented first. So these are the success metrics. The problem statement 1 is solved by these two suggestions. Solution 5, where we have asked the parents to choose an avatar for themselves. So 60% of the respondents have responded that they will choose a cool mom or cool dad. This kind of approximately gives us a feel like who is actually using, who's a first time user. And the solution 7 is a direct answer for who is actually using the app, where we are asking the personalized question. And the statement 2, where we are making sure that the parent are passing on the product to the kid. Solution 8, where the parents are given a sample game. This kinds of helps them to realize what the game is all about, and they can pass on the product to the kid sooner. The solution 9, where they can share social feed, kind of gives a proud moment for them. I've also analyzed the child persona here. She's exactly matches the kind of a persona that has been explained in the problem statement, and this is the user journey. I've explained the pain points and solution here. When the kid is actually playing the game is of a game is a little bit longer game where there might be a chances for them to leave the game in between. So when they come back, they have to go through the game again, which is an arduous task for them. So giving them a resume button, which is like a bookmark, help them to resume back the game from where they actually left. This helps. Then giving them the reward points, like when they complete the game, there is no sense of accomplishment that I have completed something. So giving them a badge that they have completed a story, or giving them reward points will help in increasing the engagement. And they have as they go through the stories one by one, there is no clear milestone or a clear picture of where they exactly are in the game journey. So giving them a roadmap or milestone will kind of help in improving the customer engagement. They creates a compulsion for them to come back to the game. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Suganya. Over to you, Bhavna and Anand.
Hey, no, that was great. Again, like, you've packed in a lot of stuff, right? A
Yes.
lot of solutions there in a very short time, right? I mean, that can be my next 2 years roadmap. If I implement it. I don't know how much experience you guys have actually building games, but that looks like a 2 year roadmap for like a 15-member team. Um, right? But no, again, I just want to ask you like a couple of very quick, just prioritization questions, right? Gun to the head, if you were to build like just two things among all those things that you suggested, what would those two things be?
Okay, since the problem statement is directly addressed by giving them personalized question,
Okay,
asking them what is their childhood
cartoon character.
hero.
Okay,
Yeah,
uh-huh.
that one. And
One more.
hmm, one more.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, giving them an avatar, asking them to select an avatar and using that avatar inside the story. That kinds
Mm-hmm.
of give them a feel that they are into the story rather than just reading the story. When they read the story, when there is a depiction of themselves playing in that, let's give them the kind of a feel. Okay, I'm playing this game as such, though it is
Mm-hmm.
a reading app.
it also gives a kind of a feel that okay, I'm into this story as such. So that improves their feel. I mean, personalized feeling towards the game.
Okay. Okay. No, that's great. Thanks. No more questions. That was really cool.
I
Thank
have
you.
a call out for Sukanya.
Yeah.
You said you actually spoke to 25 parents. Was this like an online survey you sent them? Did you pick up the phone and call them?
I spoke to six. Okay, so four of them are like from two of them are my relative, two of them are my friends, and two of them were into social and emotional learning. They were kind of a coaches. So,
Where
and
did
the
you
rest
find
of
SEL coaches?
I work for a company called Brain Genie Educare, and that concentrates on emotional parenting. So,
Right, right.
Right.
and the rest of them I got it from online surveys.
Right. Cool. Okay. I just want to call out that that effort was amazing for a 1 month whatever time period that you had to do this. That's really amazing.
Thank you.
We try to follow a similar thing where we try to talk to parents, try to talk to kids to validate our assumptions at least a little bit. So that's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for the presentation, Suganya.
Thank you, Tanya.
Over to you, Nikhil.
Are we going to spin the wheel again
We
for
don't
that
need.
first
There's
segment?
only one team left.
Damn.
Vijay, Raghav, and Jocelyn.
Cool. Folks, please raise your hand so that I can add you on stage.
All right. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Amazing. I'll just start sharing my screen. Just give me 1 second. Can you confirm if you're able to see my screen?
Yep.
Amazing. Hi, team. A very good evening. So first of all, thank you for the opportunity for us to present for the BigFatPhoenix team. A small intro. My name is Vijay. I'm a product consultant at Freshworks, and I'm here with my colleague Jocelyn, who works in the same company as well. So the problem statement that we took was what is a reliable way to estimate the percentage of our users who would convert into subscribers, and what would be the sweet spot for pricing. Right. So before we even dive into that question, so one thing we wanted to understand was, are there parents who are willing to pay for something like this? So one study that I went through by Lingo Kids said that out of like 5,000 parents that they surveyed, 86% of these parents found that 86% of parents found that they found soft skills as valuable or even more valuable than the hard skills that their children learn in their curriculum.
This is
And
global or
aided by
India?
this is global. This is global. So, aided by the pandemic and adoption of new payment modes and all of that, I think parents have also eased into the fact that they can pay for subscription models for their kids' education as well. So, considering one of that user persona, a parent who doesn't have that much time in order to instill values or teach their kids something, and also making sure that they learn something when they're on their mobile phones. So we thought these are the parent segment that we should be targeting, and they will be the right personas for somebody to use Facet stories. So the goal here for them would be to incorporate reading into their daughter's schedule, and also a way for them to learn something well while also having fun. So the first question is estimating the conversion rate. And the way I approach this is first deriving this from the current metrics. So from the Q&A, we found that the number of people who finish the first game is 20% of the users who download, and who go on to finish the next 4 games are 50% of this cohort of users. Now, which gives us like a ceiling of 10% of engaged users. So it gives us like a sanity check as to we have to determine a conversion rate from this cohort of users. Now, the way I arrived at the conservative base and optimistic is an assessment of industries across to determine the conversion rate by word streams says that the average conversion rate across these companies is 2.35%, and this is for mobile apps. And so that's where I've started the base case as. And also the top 25% of these companies that were surveyed, they had conversion rate of 5.31%. So that is where the optimistic case comes from as well. But with the product that Facet Story has, definitely with the improvement of the weekly content or adding analytics, and especially the solutions presented in terms of how to figure out whether the parents are using it or the kids are using it, we'll be able to increase these conversion rates across all these three scenarios. So the second thing that we did was to identify similar apps that are there in the market, because from my understanding, Facet Stories doesn't have a direct competitor in the market. So the way we selected these apps were they had a component of playing and learning, and they were targeting users from of age 5 to 15 years old, and using the information that is available publicly in terms of the revenue and the number of downloads that they have, and calculating the approximate paying subscribers, we found that the conversion rate for these apps are as follows. So for the app called QTK, it was 0.58%. For the app called Kidopia, 2.8%, and for LingoKids, it was 0.7%. Now,
And these are
with
all
this
like
data,
Kidopia's US numbers, right? Global numbers.
No, so Kidopia is, yeah, correct, global numbers. So we just wanted to get like a fair estimate on what is the typical conversion rate. That was the point of this exercise. So, and the reason why we took this
Yeah.
as
No,
well,
the reason
and
I'm asking is because we see that conversion rates actually are significantly different from US to India, depending on the
definitely,
subject matter or the type of product.
Definitely. So that's the reason why there was also a weighted average that was taken in order to get the conversion estimate. So when we were calculating the secondary research conversion rate as 1%, QTK, which is like an Indian app, was given a higher weightage of 3, compared to Kidopia, which was only given a weightage of 1, and
Sure.
LingoKids, which was given a weightage of 2. So that's how we arrived at, and considering the regional nuance, we came up with this conversion rate. And for the primary research, we took 2.5 percentage, which is the base case scenario, as the conversion rate, and we calculated an average saying, hey, our expected conversion rate is around 1.75 percentage as of today, without the addition of new features yet. So the next problem statement that we wanted to work on, as mentioned, was determining the price point. Now, the key question we had was how to determine a price point or the willingness to pay for a customer in a brand new category. So Facet Story is not operating in like a red ocean market where we can just undercut our competitors, right? So for this, the first thing that will definitely help is asking our users directly as to how much they're willing to pay. And while we were doing some research, we found this effective yet simple method called Debug Ranger, where you're just asking your users, what would you be willing to pay? And assuming like a series of price points, we're just randomly giving a price point. And based on their response, we're showing them a higher value if they say yes, they are willing to pay for it, and a lower value if they say no. And with this data, we'll be able to get a fair estimate of what is our customers' willingness to pay for the app. So the price points that have been assumed are in the range of 70 to 200. I'll walk the rationale behind these set of assumptions in the upcoming slides. So the secondary research that we did was, again, to find out how are these apps priced in the market, to get a fair estimate of what we can price Facet Stories as. So some of the key insights that we learned from apps like Wisdom and LingoKids are that they give a 50% discount on their monthly price when parents pay upfront for 12 months. So obviously the rationale behind this would be to encourage parents to pay for it upfront, so that they'll encourage the kids, because of the fact that they've paid for 12 months, they will encourage the kids to use it more. And it will also create a habit loop, saying, hey, once you've used a particular product for 12 months, it's difficult to just stop using it after the end of that 12 months. So that's the rationale, I think, behind giving such a steep discount when it comes to monthly versus annual. And I think that is something to take away in terms of how we are pricing Facet Stories as well. So the second set of considerations that we did was QTK and Kidopia. So these are numbers based on Kidopia's Indian market strategy. So the annual price that they have are 999 and 499. So a good range between these price points would be a fair estimate to start with. So based on the primary research,
Hi Vijay,
and
a
based
quick
on,
time check. Only 1 minute is
yeah,
left.
yeah, thank you. So based on the primary research and secondary research, we've come up with a price point at 120 rupees per month and if it's paid annually, it's rupees 60 per month, which translates to around rupees 720 per year, giving it a 50% discount. The reason why we first assumed it's 60 per month is again from the Q&A we found that you guys are planning to price the US market from around $5 to $10 per month, and we thought we'll scale it down by a factor of 5, following precedents from major apps that have done this, considering the market nuance. Right? So Netflix has like a $10 monthly fee in the US, but only $2 in India. Similarly,
Yeah, that's
Amazon
what I was
Prime
going
has.
to ask. Did you look at not just in regional, but when you, in your
Mhm.
research, did you look at platform also? Android, iOS, is this blended or is this Android only or iOS only?
No, this is blended,
Blended.
especially
Okay.
platforms like Prime and Netflix, which cater to a particular set of audience. They don't discriminate in
No,
terms
no,
of the
but
platform.
somebody like a Kidopia or a Kids app might. They may have differential pricing on Android
Yeah,
versus iOS. That's why I
understood.
asked you. I myself
Understood.
don't know.
Understood. Again, strong feeling that we should not do that. Transparent pricing across different platforms, because this is a kids platform. Parents do tend to talk to each other, and I think varying the prices across platforms might end up, some of the iOS users to drop off saying, "Hey, we're
No,
paying
it's
more."
not about varying the prices up across platforms. It's also about like finding which platform is potentially going to generate more revenue and optimizing for that and taking the hit on the other one.
Okay, okay, understood,
Because
understood.
price tolerance in iOS will be far higher price point than Android in the US. In the US,
Definitely,
in India, I don't know. It's possibly true in India also.
definitely. So this was not something that we considered that much. We
Yeah.
assumed,
No, just
as per the
curious.
app.
Not like I'm just curious whether you looked at it.
Understood, understood. Yeah. All right. So yeah, taking $7.5 as the average between 5 to 10 in the range that was given, and scaling it down by 5, we came to the number that monthly price of 120 rupees. Because again, we need to give that 50% discount for the annual pricing, which again, that's rupees 720 falls in the range of 499 to 999 that we've come up in the previous slide based on market research. Again, experiments and consumer research can be performed further to ensure that we've narrowed down at the right price. So yeah, to conclude, BFP is solving a problem that a lot of companies haven't found out yet or haven't solved effectively yet. I truly believe that the app has a lot of potential, and at this price point, we will be able to reach a lot more users and make sure that the parents are paying. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Over to you, Anand Bhavna. Any questions?
No, I just want to say that was like a remarkably put together presentation, and it's very clear and very concise, thorough, and well researched. Any questions I had, I already like interrupted their presentation and kind of asked. So I don't have anything right now, unless Bhavna, you have something.
Yeah, just wondering, like another presentation brought up premium pricing because it is essentially in its current shape and form, and like potentially what it can be. Such a service doesn't exist right now in the like retail space, right? Like you can go B2B and there are other things, but retail wise, there isn't one that is an apples to apples comparison. So what are your thoughts on premium pricing? Just like, I don't know, put a like into two, and or like 30, like bump the price up 30% more. Do you see any value in us trying an experiment like that? Or
So just so I understood the question correctly, so you're saying since we don't have a competitor, can we increase the estimated prices to see if it will work out or not? Correct?
I'm saying the like not having competitors is a secondary thing to consider, more that it is because it's a niche market and we are looking at progressive parents as our user persona for the decision makers.
Understood. Understood. Again, sorry, can you clarify the question? So,
Okay, so what you have done is you've compared with other apps that are existing right now, and those apps, while they're not an apples to apples comparison, they are
understood.
like they are operating in the same market. So they're probably looking at some of those parents might be like buying those products as well, but they're not comparable to ours because they are like in a slightly different market. That the target age is different, blah blah blah. So I was wondering, because we are in a niche segment, do you think there's an advantage in us looking at premium pricing?
Understood. Understood. I think yes. So first things first. I was not aware of this industry until the problem statement came. So
Which
I'm
industry? The kids
SEL, right?
SCL.
No. The social and emotional learning.
Right.
So my estimate in itself, it was a bit conservative. So that's the reason my pricing was also, if you noticed, was a bit conservative compared to the other pricings that were there. But again, from research, if you were able to find that that there's a particular target persona that is willing to pay more, I think that definitely the value in it, the product, I see it, I will definitely pay for it a lot more than what I've put on the slide. But for me, I was thinking in terms of driving more volume, and making a lot more parents pay than focusing on lesser number of parents who might end up paying a higher subscription.
Yeah, got it. Keep the top of the funnel. Do you have kids?
No, I am 23. I don't have kids.
Okay. I was just wondering if that came from a position of having paid for a service for a kid and like having an
Okay. I have a brother who is 14 years old, so
Okay.
I asked him to play first and said, hey, how much will you pay for it? I just asked him, considering his, and he just said, hey, probably like $100 per month. That was like my starting point, saying, okay, why, and started working from that point.
Got it. Okay.
So, yeah.
That's cool. And your
one question I have.
Sorry, can I
Sorry,
just complete my question?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, your 1.75% conversion rate that you have estimated, that's not off the 10% who are completing for it. That's
No,
basically
that's the entire
That's the total
number of
from top of funnel.
Okay.
Number of
I got confused because both numbers were on the same slide, so I wanted to clarify.
Okay.
Thanks. Yeah.
Total
Go
number
ahead.
of downloads.
Got it. You had a
Just
question.
some.
My question.
Go on. Sorry.
My question was like, how far away was our estimate from what you guys had in mind? Like, I know the first presentation was around 3,000 rupees, and ours was, I know it's a bit underwhelming, the number, but what was the number that you guys have in mind?
No,
like,
it's honestly don't know about India. We never were thinking about India as a monetizing market at all. We just happened to see better numbers in India than we expected. I expected to see zero engagement, but we're seeing decent engagement. So we thought, okay, maybe let's think about it. We're still primarily focused on the US. Just to give you all some numbers, right, folks? All of you who've participated subsequently since the thing in the last month, we've made a bunch of changes, including like a 10-turn pattern episode at the beginning, and our first episode completion rate in the US is now close to 50%. It's no longer like 20%, and we are seeing around approximately 12-13% of the player base actually completing 4 episodes or more, which is our conversion right now. It is looking like the US is actually doing like really well. India is okay. India is seeing around 3%, around 25% completion rate, and around 2% 4 episode completion, which was 3% 4 episode completion, which is what. But oddly enough, India, we're seeing D1 retention of around 20% ish, which we were like, I don't even know why they're coming back to the app. There's no reason for anyone to come back to the app. Even without anything, they're coming. If we're seeing 20%, that's actually better engagement. My expected retention was 0. Based on that, if 20% is actually not bad, right? So that's the reason we started looking at, oh shit, maybe there's something in India we're leaving opportunity without looking at. That's the reason we're looking at.
I think it's definitely something you guys can try. Like, I know for a fact there's some parents who pay top dollar for this.
Yeah. The challenge is not so much of a product challenge, it's more of a UA challenge, according to me. It is going to be a problem that needs to be solved at the UA end more than at the product end.
Understood.
Yeah.
So, Anna, I think you had a question before I asked.
Also thinking about
Sorry? I thought
Jocelyn was saying something. Go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, sorry, I think there's a lag. Yes. So while you're preparing this presentation, you're also thinking about language nuances. The difference in retention rates could maybe also have language nuances in US. It's the first language there, right? It's a second language here. I was wondering, are you optimizing anything based on for the Indian market and for the
we're not.
US
No,
market?
US is our primary market. So we're not anything we get in India, we're seeing as a bonus. We are optimizing for the US because see, any cultural content for kids, at least in the more affluent, convent educated type of market, it's okay. All of those kids are anyway consuming American content in any case. So we didn't see any huge need for that. But if we do want to do a mass market product in India, then we'll have to think about that sort of thing. Like, let's say, for example, we start getting some signal from India and people are actually paying and we're like, holy shit, they're actually paying, why not? Then we might start thinking about that, but not before that.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah. You guys are from Freshworks?
Yeah.
Are you in
That's right, yes.
Chennai?
Yes.
Where?
So I'm from. Yeah. Go ahead, Vijay. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be moving next month. I've been working from home from Coimbatore, but moving to Thoraipakkam in Chennai.
Thoraipakkam, near Anton. I have a friend in Thoraipakkam who has a 6-foot lizard. You should meet him. I'm not kidding. It's actually true. And you, Jocelyn, you're also in Chennai?
Yes, Anand. I'm from Ananagar, this side of Chennai, north side of Chennai. Ananagar, Villivakkam, that side.
You're in Villivakkam or Annanagar? You can't say I'm in Villivakkam, Annanagar, that side. That's like between
So I'm
Villivakkam and
Villivakkam.
Annanagar is huge. You're in
It's
Villivakkam.
Villivakkam.
Right.
Yes. Because people don't really recognize it quickly. But if I say Ananagar, they recognize,
I'm
you know.
in Chennai right now. I'm sitting in Besnagar.
Okay.
I
Okay.
am from and live in, and we are based out of Chennai. So that's the reason.
Got it.
Nice, but great presentation, folks. Really enjoyed it. It was very well put together, very clearly and very concise. Great stuff.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Awesome. Thank you, Vijay. Thank you, Jocelyn. Cool. So over to you guys. Now it's the time for the results. So you can take 5-ish minutes.
What do you want us to do? Give you 3.
First, second, and third.
It has to be like ranked.
Yes.
Okay, cool. You want to get on the phone, BPAD? Fine.
Cool. Awesome. So till then, everybody who is still here, I've already shared the link for the May edition of Product Teardown. So in case you're looking forward to participate, I'm sharing it again. And I have a few polls lined up for the people who are here. So first, I'll be publishing them, and please participate and let us know how you have been responding to other events by the product folks. In case any of you are looking to check out the previous editions of Teardowns as well, so you can find those on our website. There you'll find a link to the winning Teardown decks as well as the recordings of the deck days. So I'll share that link as well. And also, I would love to know how many of you are repeating participants and you've previously participated in the teardowns as well. So there's another poll for you guys. Okay, so we have Anand here. So looks like we are gonna get the results soon.
Yeah, we are ready once you all are.
Yeah. No, yeah, you can announce the results.
Like right now?
Yeah.
Okay, so firstly, that was like very hard to pick between all of these, right? So again, it's if you didn't make it, that's not on you, that's on us, because it's just ultimately these things are subjective, right? It's not like weightlifting where whoever lift 100 grams more than the other person is clearly the winner, right? It's not so objective, it's a very subjective thing. So we went with a couple of parameters. I'd like to be transparent about why we went a particular way, right? So we looked at a couple of things, right? We looked at the focus with which the problem was solved, and the rigor that seems to have gone into the the research and the thought process and the way that it was thought through. Many people, like everyone, came up with really good solutions and suggestions, but we also did look at, hey, with what rigor were those solutions arrived at. Then we looked at, okay, and how practical and applicable were those solutions to what we wanted to do, right? Many solutions you all gave were actually great, but they were not particularly things that we can implement right now. So those things may not be very practical for us. There is no way for you to have known that, but unfortunately, that's the reality from our end. So we're using those as parameters to, pick those pick the three that we had to shortlist from. But I mean, it's in no means saying that anything that anyone else did was not valuable. All of it was incredibly valuable, but we had to pick, so here we are, right? So we'll go from 3 to 1. So 3, we have Jaldeep. Jaldeep's presentation was like really crisp and to the point and very clearly thought through. I think you kind of went after a particular problem that we did some really solid reasoning and research and came up with a very precise thing of, hey, this is what it should be. So that is something which was really, really cool. So Jaldeep is now is at 3. At 2, we have Suganya. Suganya performed a remarkable feat of pulling off so many suggestions, so many like valuable ideas, and just like in one space. Some of the others you guys also did that, but Suganya also like had like a lot of rigor, spoke to like 25 people, which is more than what we've spoken to in the last month or so, I think. And I need to have words with people, but all of that, and certain things which were very, very insightful, right? Where Suganya's focus on, hey, tell people what SEL is, focus on the benefits of the thing, right to the pipe from the website to the app store listing to the app itself. That thought process was pretty cool. So we really like that. And the winner is Vijay Raghav and Jocelyn, who put in the last one. I thought it was remarkably well put together, very well thought through, and solidly researched and reasoned. So, and again, very actionable things in that, which we can pretty easily do. So that was our winner. Our winner was Vijay Raghav and Jocelyn. So thanks, folks. That's pretty much it. It's been fantastic, and we really had a great time looking at all of your amazing presentations. And it opens up a lot of avenues even for us. Sometimes we're very close to the product and we don't see opportunities, or we don't see certain problems with the product, which people like you all would be easily able to spot. So we're very grateful for that, all your contribution. And feel free to reach out to us, please. Love to talk, love to connect, stay in touch, reach out, and we'd be happy to be in touch. So
just want to mention that I have been on the product folks Slack for a while. So I'm happy to chat over there, or a lot of you might have reached out to me on LinkedIn. So happy to connect over there too.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Anand and Bhavna, for taking out the time on a Saturday evening to join us today and to judge all those presentations. And thank you to everyone who stayed with us till the end. Like they said, you can reach out to them if you find the problem that they're solving interesting. They would be definitely happy to have a conversation with you. So that is also an avenue you can explore. And thank you, Anand. Thank you, Bhavna, for being amazing judges. And it was great coordinating with you guys throughout the month. And hopefully we'll end up meeting sometime in the future.
For sure.
That's it for today, folks.
Thank you.
Have a very good evening and a very good long weekend as well. Thank you.
You too.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, folks.
Thanks to everybody. Bye.
Bye.